I think we are.
Let's hope so.
But we're being recorded, so that's a good thing. And here we are on Facebook. And you can hear me, you can see me, I can see you, hear you. That's all good. It's Lianna, mine's Lianna Walden. And today I have Julia Kovacs with me. This is, I'm just going to move my window over a little. Here we go. This is, I'm presenting this through this shameless pleasure movement, which is a movement I started recently because I am on this mission to transform the energy of fear and shame into pleasure and love. And I think it's just so important that we start shedding these layers of fear. There's just so much that has built up inside of us, around us, on us, through us. And it needs a lot of time to be shed. And most of it is shame and fear. So I really wanted to focus on that. Um, yeah, so I have Julia here, and she and I have known each other for a little while. I'm in Rio de Janeiro, and Julia is in Vancouver, where I am from. We moved around in the same circles, a very sex positive community. I think she's still involved quite a bit there. Really lovely, wonderful people there. And we met through that, through events and through activities, and just really had a nice connection. And so when I started to do this, I thought, okay, Julia will be perfect to come on here. Um, I I think we're live, aren't we, Julia?
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. If it's we'll see.
So,
You know,
so
let's just drop into the uncertainty because I think now I think this whole thing we have to be really fluid and know that whatever is coming, we just have to live with it. We are either live or we are not.
it's
We'll
actually
just live with it. But
it's
let's have a
true.
conversation. I'm really excited to talk to you and have this little chat with you because yeah, you are living the dream. You're living the dream. You know that,
I'm
yeah,
living the
the
dream.
brave woman who packed up everything and sold everything and decided to follow her heart, which is not many of us dare to do. So talking about letting go of our fear of certainty. So I think you are one of those trailblazers that you dropped so much of it before this whole corona hit, which is now a lot for a lot of people are really triggering their insecurities and their fears about the uncertainty of future. And I think you've done it a little bit ahead of time, so I think you have a lot to share around that process.
Well, yeah, that
And
could
yeah,
certainly be.
we always love people. We love people who just take off to Rio.
That could be that could be my whole show right there, dropping everything I have and own and just going following my heart. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what I'm doing, what you're doing, so that we can
Okay.
let everybody know who we are a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Mhm.
And then we'll get more into the details of the conversation. First,
Mhm.
I'll just start because
Yes, go
I'm
for
the
it.
host, you know.
Yeah, go for it, love. Go for it. You've got the
I'm,
elephant behind you.
so I'm a sex and relationship coach and healer, and I've been working for a couple of decades in this field, helping people around their sexual lives, opening to unblocking the problems that they have around sex and relationships in couples and singles. And I've been working one on one with people, workshops. I'm doing online programs. I was going to do a retreat here in Brazil, but that's going to be postponed until further notice. And yes, I also have a very active YouTube channel, and I'm on social media a lot, talking about sexuality and relationships. Really, really passionate about it, and really excited to have Julia because I know her and I have a lot of things that are in common. I was doing a lot of body work when I was in Vancouver. Now I work with a lot of international clients, and most of my work is online, as well as I do take. I've started to enter into the community here now, and that's my goal is to really understand what's going on here in Rio de Janeiro and have a business here as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's me here, and I'm the founder of the Shameless Pleasure Movement and Sexfulness, which is something I'm developing um, based on really the idea. Sexfulness is the idea of really deep diving into who you are as a sexual being and completely and totally
Mm-hmm.
accepting that being as a unique individual. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then all the aspects around what that means. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. So, Julia, why don't you just say a little bit about yourself? You describe yourself. I had it here: globe-trotting, multilingual, Renaissance woman. I love that.
I did not write this, by the way. Thank God someone else wrote that. But yeah, I think within that too. I think I've seen a little bit of how you led your life, so I think we are very similar in that. I've been looking for my identity for a long time, and I think we are close to similar age with grown up children,
Hmm.
and having been in very many different female roles, as a mother, as a wife, as a career woman, as a international student. And so and then I've come to the point where all of this kind of fell apart
Mm,
a number of years ago. And then I had to ask myself, like, okay, now what?
yeah,
Like, now what? And
yeah.
how can I retrieve myself, or actually that myself that wasn't even there anymore before I had children and before I was married? And how can I connect to that being who I am? And it came through sexuality, which was
Beautiful.
a complete surprise.
Mm,
And in that process, I discovered that there is a whole other being. What you are, I guess, describing, what I'm understanding in your sexfulness, is that this sexual being there that I didn't even know existed.
yeah,
It was almost like it was shut in behind these doors, and I didn't know that it was kind of a current that was running, and it was actually a cause of most of my anxiety and most of my dissatisfaction, and a feeling that something is missing, not knowing what was behind that door, and not even knowing that the door existed.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so
What door
once
do I open?
no idea, no
Yes.
idea. Stumbled on it. It got opened. I got super scared, because I also realized that, wow, this is a wild energy, and it of course brought up a lot of trauma and shame and fear and all of that. And I was really also
Mm,
scared to go in there, because I felt that need to have someone to hold my hand through it, because it's so very vulnerable to be there. So in that exploration, who is out there who can go through this process with me? And do I dare to actually explore this new being?
mhm.
Who am I going to do it with? Who is out there who can do that? And that led to this huge exploration, and finding all these amazing teachers and communities, etc. And when I did that, I realized that, wow, there's so many people out there of our age, and especially this baby boom generation, and many other dissatisfied couples who get to this point in their lives. And then um, what, you're going to live the next 20, 30 years of your life playing golf, or
Yeah.
and just, or gaining weight, or living the dream of retirement, and living like a wet match, like you just
Yeah.
never
So
been.
you were at a point where you needed and you wanted a big transformation and you were trying to find that direction and sexuality opened up for you at this point.
Yes, and
And you
so
dove
then I
in.
decide. Then I decide. People said. Then when I started doing that, people were asking questions. Well, what did you do? How did you do it? And I'm like, well, I don't know. This wasn't really my field of expertise. But then so many people kept asking a question. I said, okay, well, I then need to learn how to share it, because my other big identity is this tour guide, which I've been
Mhm.
for a number of years, and the essence of that is basically, and I know you have this gene as well, is that I saw something beautiful, I gotta share it. Not
Yeah.
everybody has it. Some people find beautiful and they just enjoy the beauty and fuck everyone else. And we have this this thing, this bodhisattva thing going that we just gotta share it with the world. And so I've spent a lot of time with coaches and finding out that no, I cannot let this bone go. Like I really feel that it's my mission. Like I feel a lot of passion coming from you as well. It's like a mission inside you, this burning desire to share this treasure, knowing what an incredible world it opens up to you within yourself.
Well,
And then everything around you transforms.
let's get down. Let's just talk about some of the modalities that changed your life a little bit, so we can quickly understand what how you transformed into this sexual intimacy coach.
Well, the big change is the orgasmic meditation,
Right.
which you are familiar with as well,
And
and
I don't know if other people are, which is called
which is
oming.
called Om, and there's a whole organization behind it that since then fell apart,
Yeah.
and it's not for everyone. But the kernel of that, which we can talk about that for hours, but the realization of that is that it's a female-based sexuality practice,
Yes.
which is really, and it's an attention cultivating practice. So the meditation part is attention cultivating, and it's in the slowing down, and it's also focusing on female desire and how to touch a woman in a way that we've never really been touched consciously before.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say probably certainly never. Perhaps you had an amazingly conscious lover, but most of us come from different generations where, let's face it, we live in patriarchy, and our sexual lives, the way it develops, it was definitely for me, was run by what the men want.
Yeah.
The man has an erection, he's turned on, and now I have to sort of go along with it. And as exciting as I find that, my body is not at that level of excitement. I'm not having a hard on. I'm not, I'm still thinking, but is he gonna marry me, or is my ass too big, or does he really like me? Is he gonna call in the morning? Like, all of that is going on in my mind before I could actually relax and surrender to my own turn on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so orgasmic meditation kind of reverses that. And I don't really want to taunt the horn of orgasmic meditation. It actually is based in lots of other practices that
Mhm.
that are out there, and consequently I researched that. I stayed with a community called Morehouse in outside of San Francisco, where actually Nicole, who was the founder of One Taste with the orgasmic meditation, has studied, and they have a lot larger and more extensive practices around that. But the idea is that
Mhm.
you don't start the sexual connection by a guy having a hard on and he just does a rub rub rub, which he learned from porn, and now you are somewhat lubricated and get on with it. And that's how most of our sexuality started as young women, especially of our generation. I don't know about you, but that's has been my experience. And then out of that, I've understood that there is a whole other way of approaching sexuality. And the question always is, well, are men going to go along with it? And what's in it for the man, etc. And the reality is that men do want us to be that sexual, but they don't know how to get us there. And
Yeah.
the
Well,
curve.
we're getting into a little bit of a different topic, but we can also we can we can incorporate that into. I want to get back to here. We are in a situation where we're locked in with either we're locked in on our own or we're locked in with our partner, and it's very unusual. It's actually the first time it's ever had happened, ever in this modern day society. And so now if you're a man and a woman, or in any kind of a partnership, you're faced with this person who has all of this sexual desire and energy that maybe you explored initially when you got together, but
Mm,
you haven't really had the time anymore to go any deeper than that initial transaction that took that initial
mm,
passion that took place. You know, that
mhm,
that
mhm,
that passion and that coming together is so intense and beautiful, and but it eventually it kind of dies down because
mhm.
just as in anything else, everything changes, right? As we
Yeah.
can see, everything
Yes.
changes, and we have to go with the flow. We have to then kind of restructure our lives in a way that's going to work with the change that's taken place. And so this is what I think a lot of us are doing now because we've come into three,
Mhm,
4, 5, 6 weeks. Sometimes people in China are a
mhm,
couple of months, 3 months. Just they're just starting to open the doors a little bit. You know, a month, and then there's still no idea when this ended,
and it's gonna end.
when
Mhm,
it's going to
mhm,
end. So you can't make plans. You can't really. So here you're with your partner. You're like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to be with this person for a while, and I know for me, and you can talk about yourself in this moment. In the first couple of weeks, I wasn't really interested in having sex at all. I was just like, okay, what's happened? Like now he's home all the time because I work a lot at home and he's out, and okay, this
mhm,
is nice, but my plans are kind of messed up. You know, it's kind of like
mhm,
restructure, 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 and then okay, 2, 3 weeks go by. It's like, all right, well, maybe I got to make the best of this and have some fun a little bit with this. And now it's settling into okay, we are in this together, and I can I have pleasure in this? Am I
mhm,
allowed to go through?
mhm,
Am I allowed to feel pleasure when I look on the news and I hear about people that are going through so much difficulty, and
mhm,
you know, and I feel it too. I feel you feel the
mhm,
kind of the anxiety of what's going
mhm,
on, and also the trauma of
mhm.
what where our lives are going to go next.
Yeah.
So, are we allowed? Is there a possibility for pleasure here? And
Yeah.
maybe answer that. Let's
Yeah.
start with that question: is there a possibility for pleasure, and why? Why do we need pleasure here?
Yeah, well, I'm also really interested to hear what you are doing currently, and maybe you can share that as well, because I think this is yeah, and you described it really well, how the wave, when a death happens, there's a wave of grief, and first is disbelief, and there's a transition, and I think collectively we are going through that. It's like it's at first it's just a shock of realizing. And I remember, like, the first few days, like waking up in the morning and like, oh wow, this actually did happen, I didn't dream it, like this, we are actually shut
Or
down,
maybe it is a dream. I don't know.
well, maybe it is a dream, like all of that, and then just going through the stages, and also realizing this whole um, bigger picture, that we have gone through life constantly thinking that the crisis happened somewhere else. It's us versus them,
Hmm.
and now we are all in it together. And yes, when you have a big heart and you have a concern about the world, it's very difficult not to care about what's happening elsewhere. And I know that it's been difficult to keep it arm's length, and I had my moments where, just, of crying for the people who die without loved ones, and also feeling this incredible guilt looking around in my life, that my God, my life is fucking awesome. and and
Right. And so, what's wrong with
and
that? What's wrong with having the fact that your life is
yes, and
awesome?
what's wrong with that? And I just read like another post about that as well. I think the difference is that you and I, and I guess a lot of our people in our community, we have been more sensitive, and a lot of the fancy attractions that a lot of people are attaching their lives to, we have already discarded, and so we are a little bit closer to the true essence of who we are. And therefore, there is we have tools
Hmm.
to access that. And yes, at the beginning of my research and exploration of this, I when I went to Morehouse in California, I asked them actually this exact same question. I said, like, can I have this much pleasure? Because my programming was that this is hedonistic, and you're just good for nothing because you're not working hard, and therefore, oh, just living in pleasure is, well, who does that? And eventually you're gonna burn in hell for all of that. So all of that stuff, it took me a while to really wrap my head around, and because I got such a scientific mind, I actually am geek at best, so I actually researched, and so to talk about pleasure. Pleasure is good for us. Our brain is wired for pleasure. We are pleasure seeking creatures, and avoiding pain, and so we can go into the chemistry of it, of what happens in the brain, but it actually, a lot of people, of course, find it through food or conversation, etc. But anything that we do in life and we call it fun or having a good time, it's really related to the biochemistry that's happening in the body, and it makes us feel good.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
like
well,
eating a chocolate.
so let's go back to now
Yeah.
and
Yes.
wanting pleasure, because I really believe that we need, because if we look at it energetically, fear is a constricting energy, right?
Hmm.
It holds you in it. It crushes you down. It makes you feel small. It makes you feel it makes you, it makes your body feel like it's stiff. It stiffens you up, right? Whereas the opposite of pleasure and orgasm, for example, it opens you up, it expands you, right? It makes you feel good, it makes you feel alive and happier. And I really believe that when I say, is there a possibility for pleasure, that it's absolutely necessary to begin to create pleasure if you haven't yet, on a daily basis, because there's so many reasons why it's a health benefit to you. And if you want to be one to help others, or to show, or to be the be one be ready for, as things open up, how do you want to be as a human being? Do you want to be constricted in fear and terrified of what's happening, or do you want to be open and loving and healthy and full of life? And even for, if I'm a constricted, fearful person, it's very difficult for me to even help someone who's like that. But if I'm an open person and I'm expanded, and I can feel pleasure, and I mean, sexual pleasure is one thing, but just pleasure in your life, in smaller things, because I think there's ways you can build that pleasure to feeling more of a sexual pleasure. You can help people with this energy much better, and they can feel it from you. We can build that energy around with other people. So
Yes, you need to be resourced. I feel like I think it's easier for people to understand the comparison, like going to the gym, right?
yes,
Like if you're out of shape, if you're unhealthy, you had a terrible diet, and you're not working out, you are not able to run a marathon,
yeah, exactly,
right? And so it's the same with pleasure. If you haven't really given yourself the permission to actually enjoy life in many different ways, and there's a lot of pleasure in looking at a flower, or smelling the rose, like all of those things that poetry was talking about. And now we have actually the time, because oftentimes, I'm sure, being in this business, people were like, well, those practices sounds good, but I don't have the time. I was just
yes.
listening
Now there's no excuse. There's no
there's no
excuse
excuse. A lot
because
of
you
people,
have
I say,
lots
like
of time.
overworked, and spending a lot of time with, driving the kids, and at the end of the day, they're exhausted. So
Yes,
now we have the time to honor our body and sleep and prepare properly the food, and actually sit down and enjoy the food, eat what you want to eat, and eat the way you want to eat. We don't have to hurry,
yes,
and all of that is actually incredibly nurturing. It's like having a gym, that this pleasure gym, that you're just filling up your body and relaxing your nervous system. So I guess what you're saying is that this pleasure is actually putting the nervous system into the parasympathetic, which is out of the fear, the fight and
Absolutely.
flight, right?
Absolutely.
And so once we understand how that works, it's actually a conscious effort to understand that slowing down doesn't mean that you are not going to get the job done. It actually means that you're going to get the job done better with less stress, and you're not going to die of a heart attack before you can actually reap the benefits of your 30 years of career from the suburb driving to downtown and working your ass off
Yeah.
to and instead in a shorter period of time you can actually focus more on how you want to do things, and you don't feel exhausted at the end of the day, and you actually enjoy your life. So to bring it back to this moment, I think what's really important, and you were starting to touch on that now we are going into a few more weeks of the shutdown. So at the beginning it's kind of shock and it feels like, okay, it's a vacation, and if it was only a couple of weeks we all would have just snapped right back into where we were. And
Yeah.
now it's going into a longer period of time, and as you know, it takes about a month for a new habit to develop. And what I really like to encourage people now to do, and I'm doing it same myself, and I'm kind of observing what's going on within me, that now I am actually, I cleaned my house, I did the projects, I cleaned the storage, I did the gardening, I did all of this stuff that was kind of on the back burner that wasn't getting done.
Yeah.
And now I'm feeling like, okay, I want to start to get ready for the time when we actually go back to the new normal, which God knows how that is going to be, but also like addressing the structure and us being in female body, the flowing. And you were saying you didn't feel like having sex, but it's like, is all of that is now, if it's taken care of, now we also need that structure. And with my partner, who is very masculine in his ways and incredibly productive, um, we have created this structure.
Hmm.
It happened really not. It just happened not in not. I wanted to say not intentionally, but it was with intention. But
Okay,
the
well,
way it
let just want to just before you tell me that, are you two living in the same place? So,
no,
or
no.
so you're able to meet at time. I want to give some specific examples for what
Mm-hmm.
we're doing and what some suggestions that we have to people, whether they're in a couple situation or if they're
Mm-hmm.
single, how they can create pleasure with their partner or alone. So,
So
you're,
so if it, so if you were to live with your partner, I would say make sure that you have alone time and connected time in a structured way. That's really helpful for the nervous system. This is what I've been kind of gleaning from everyone, and what I've noticed that it was really good for us as well. The too much togetherness is it starts to get really irritating for people.
mhm,
And even if you really love each other, even all of that, with all of that, so it's really important to, and then you're an entrepreneur and you're doing your thing, so it's really important to actually create some structure around it. And it doesn't have to be super rigid. This is another thing that I want to emphasize, that okay, you don't have to be like all the time wake up at 7 o'clock and whatever. Just go with the flow of your body, and if you feel like waking up at 9, that's fine. But like, say that, okay, we're gonna that write down things that you want to do together and separately, and then see how that flows. And when you get to like kind of like this period where it's like, okay, what's next, look on the list. Okay, well, there is this, we can do a massage together, or we can go for a walk, and then just do the number of things that you both of you would like to do. And what we decided to do
mhm,
is that when we are going for a walk, we actually have diet questions that we are addressing with
mhm,
each other.
mhm.
And that has really deepened our intimacy. And it also gives a little more depth to the walk. You don't
So
feel
you
like,
said, what
I
kind of
think
questions did you say? What kind of questions?
diet. So the diet is
Dyad. Oh,
like,
dyad questions. Okay. So explain that a
right? Like,
little bit.
So, for instance, I mean, there's tons of that, and we can share that. For instance, how do you want to be loved?
Right.
What
Okay.
kind of a lover? What kind of a lover do you want to be?
Okay. That's
Um,
nice. So you kind of come together with questions prepared. Do
mhm.
you each of you prepare questions for each other
Yeah, well, we've
or
done it like sort of
beforehand?
ahead of time, and then we have it on the phone, and then we kind of, when we exhaust one, and we look up another one, and it takes us to very different areas, but it also really deepens our intimacy and getting to know each other. We've only been together for 6 months, so there's a lot still to be uncovered.
Right.
But I really find that we really get to the nitty gritty, and then it does create a huge amount of connection, and it also addresses that whole part of the brain that really is looking for some sort of certainty. So we do feel like that we are doing something constructive,
Right.
and you know and not just, oh, let's go for a walk, and which is also lovely in itself, but yeah, instead of like, okay, sitting down in a workshop and asking these questions from each other, we can engage with the world of nature out there and do this out there ourselves. And so
Mhm.
this has been really helpful. And then when we go back to our, so we spent 4 days at my place and his place, and then 3 days at his place,
Okay.
and then we go for walks.
So you're
That's
spending
what we do.
you're spending you're not living together, but you're still
Yeah.
spending time together, and so you have somebody intimately that you can connect with, and I like the question idea. That's really good because that then, like you say, it opens the door to lots of possibilities of conversation and diving into places that maybe you haven't talked about before. And
Yes.
that's one area that, when we're in this kind of a situation as we are now, this is the opportunity to become like much more creative, more playful, um, uh, silly, crazy, doing things together that you wouldn't normally do. So, like taking little risks, and this aspect of expanding the conversation as one of the risks is so beautiful because we haven't had time in the past to just, okay, let's talk about something we've never talked about before and see where that leads us to. Is there
Right.
is there
And
a question
and
that came up that really, um, or a couple of questions you started to say the questions, but I'd love to hear a few.
okay, so for instance, how do you want to be loved?
Right.
Okay. And so with the diets, the difference between a diet, and you probably know this, or a regular conversation, that with a diet you ask the question and you let the other
Hmm.
answer without interrupting, and at the end all you say is thank you. So it's not like a back and forth thing, it's just allowing you to express as much as you want to express. Another one is, if you had no restrictions, what would you like to express? And also another, like, there are rules to it: no judgment,
Hmm.
no arguing,
Right.
not taking it personally. A lot of those things have to be in place in order
Yeah.
for this container to be working, right? So
Yeah.
so there's a bit of a practice around it. Another one is there, do you have an unfinished cycle in your life that you may want to finish? And this might be a really important thing for couples. For instance, do you have a cycle around your children? There's a project that that hasn't been finished, and it might be really good for your partner to know that, okay, you have something that has been unfinished, maybe with your ex, or maybe around finances, or maybe around your business. And this brought up actually a lot of things that is actually really good for us as a couple to know about the other person, because then I know that when he is working on something, that's what he's working on, because this is kind of this unfinished stuff has been irking and it's been on a back burner, but he wants to finish that cycle and
Yeah.
I want to finish the cycle. And
Well,
because we feel,
let's talk a little bit
yeah,
more about what get into the actual pleasure aspect,
okay, the pleasure.
the pleasure
That's
aspect,
so that
because
has been
the
real
work
that
stuff
has been
that
real yeah,
when
that
we
has
when
been
we talk
really fun.
about pleasure, it's a very different energy than it is when we're dealing on the everyday and we're we're deciding who's going to do what during the day. Maybe you have kids and the kids are going to do this and I'm going to do that. And you take care of this and I'm teaching the kids and you're working. And then when it comes together, you come together as a couple, it's a different kind of energy that you need to find yourself a way to get into so that you can connect in a different way. And I think that that's the tricky part because now we're spending so much time together that you're tired and yet you kind of you want closeness and intimacy and maybe you're having some sex, but like, is there not more to this? And how can we create something? Or maybe you're not having any sex because um, it's just too much with that person. And I'm just going to offer one thing myself that I find really, it's been really fun and helpful, and something that, because I really believe in playfulness as much as possible. And then to shift yourself into some other kind of form for a little while, even if it's only a half an hour a day, because we're
Mhm.
so like, okay, I gotta work and then I'm gonna take care of this and I've got to go get
Mhm.
groceries and I've got to like wash my hands and like clean my
Right.
body and
Yeah.
make sure you've got your masks, everybody's good. Okay,
Right.
okay, let's get into some other energy. So, I suggest one way that could be fun is to, and I said this before, is like having an affair with your partner. So
Yes.
shift sort of an energy where that maybe you change your name for a half an hour and you pretend you
Mhm.
don't know each other, and be playful with it so that you shift yourself into another energy, and the kind of energy that maybe you had when you first met too is the kind that you want to
Mhm.
try to like bring back into the moment now. And you were mentioning
The
uh,
temple nights.
the couple nights. So I want to offer some other suggestions that can help bring that pleasure back in, because I think it's really difficult to feel like having this whole day together, and even even with my partner too, we're avoiding each other and spending separate time and everything. But then you get into the bedroom, and or and then, well, you have the bedroom, but you've already been through the whole house, and it's like, okay, now
Yes.
how
I know.
how do we get into this different feeling, this different
Yeah.
energy?
Yes. So it's been really fun because of all my research, I have stumbled on so many practices, and I have like a play partner who is willing to do all of this stuff.
Nice,
So
nice.
it's really fun. It's really fun, and so these are the kind of things that we have done. For instance, but first of all, in order to what you're saying, it's really hard to move to shift into that energy. So what we have done is we've gotten out of our pajamas and or whatever the home clothes, and they said, okay, let's go on a date. But the date was just in the living room, right?
Yeah,
So so we but we
but you
actually
make it
got
like a
like
date.
yes, we got actually fully dressed, like as if we are going to a really expensive, beautiful gala night, and put on like the best jewelry, like really the full on makeup, the whole thing, and then put on the lighting, and we created this amazing meal, and we put candles and put on the lights
Nice.
and or turn off the lights, and I put on high heels, and he was dressed in his best clothes in suit, and then we pretended that we are on a date, and then he asked me for to dance, and we were doing different types of dancing and tango, and I don't dance tango, but I pretended that I do.
First date, first date. Yes, I
First
do
date,
anything.
right?
I
First
can
date,
dance.
right? And yeah, exactly, right? So we did that, and then I did a bit of a lap dance for him, and started to take off
Good
his
first date.
clothes,
Good
and
first
and
date.
it was so interesting because it wasn't really planned. I had no idea how it was gonna go. It's not like I had like a big plan in mind, but it's like we were talking about that sexual being that like it's really fun when you allow that to come out, and so I started to take off his shoes, and all of a sudden I smelled his shoes, and he was like, what? And I'm like, I don't know.
Go with it, baby. Go with
but he
it.
was, but all of a sudden I was like, ah, this leather smells really good. It was weird, but I was like, wow, I didn't even know this person. Where the fuck is this person coming from? But just, and then I took off his sock and I just licked his foot. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? But it was really fun. And he was like, wow, and
Well, so
so,
that's a big part of it too, is once you enter into that and again, playfulness, find some moment
mhm.
to be playful, and so setting up a date and then just playing in the date. What is it like to go on a first date with him and see what happens and see where it takes you, and don't judge
And your
yourself.
creativity and your child can come out and all that
Exactly.
shyness and of course you gotta have a partner, and you gotta also let go of your self-consciousness around how you look and how silly this is. But it's like, fuck, I mean, this is as weird as it will ever get in our lifetime,
It's
so why
surreal
the hell?
anyways. Yes, it's
Right, why
surreal
the hell not?
anyways.
So
Ex-
real anyway. So in the different communities that I stayed with, and I've also been sharing this with John, with my partner, that for a lot of people, like you and I in this community, so this may be all really normal in our world, but for people who are really not familiar with this, the way to get into that sexual mode and and also to learn new things is to create, in this case, like a date night, or what they used to call the sandbox. So
mhm.
instead of just going into your sexual act, like starting necking out and making out, it's like, okay, let's decide that right now we are not actually going to have sex. We're gonna actually learn something new about how to relate to each other sexually or sensually.
Yeah.
So this is the goal. The end goal is not that we're going to have sex at the end. Of course we are going to, but we may not go there because maybe we don't feel like it. So you can set up a time, or there's no time even, but it's like just set up. It's like, okay, now we're gonna do, let's say a yoni massage, or we're gonna do a penis massage. Like, so this is another thing we did the other day with him, is that uh, like about a blowjob, and I was like, okay, I just, we've been doing all kinds of stuff together, and it's really working well. But he's really a new person in my life, is and he has never really been with anyone who is sort of consciously approaching this, and neither really have I had a willing partner like this, because we really are so into each other and really love each other, and it's really amazing connection. So so I can just melt into allowing this person to come out. So I said, okay, I really want to know what works for you. So instead of just giving him a blowjob, which I hate the word in itself, but just enjoying his cock in
Worshiping
my
his
mouth,
worshiping his
worshiping
penis.
his cock, right? Like, worshiping his penis. I was like, okay, let me just go through the different steps. So this time, like, don't go into enjoying it. Just tell me what works for you. So I was like, if I touch here, how does it feel? Do you want the hand and the mouth? Do you want just the mouth? Should I just be licking up, or should I be licking down? Should I be pulling it down? Should I be stroking at the
Well,
same time?
that's really good information. I mean, for people even in a long term relationship, where a lot of the time that detailed amount of communication has not existed, and so that therefore, this is what I find in my
Yes.
practice. A lot of problems with sex in long-term relationships because people continue on the same sexual trail for years and
Mhm.
years, and it kind of wanes out, and then it's just sex to sort of
Yeah.
relieve oneself, and then they're not sure, okay, how do we make this fun again? How do I connect to my desire again? And what you're saying here, around giving a blowjob or connecting in a very sexual way, is like, go into the finite detail of it and try to converse and find out what exactly is going to work for your partner. Really, really
And
go into it. And I don't know if everybody can do that, but some people it may be really helpful for them to hear that it's okay to ask a lot of questions about what you want to find out. You need to find out what your partner is thinking, what they're feeling, and a lot of time we are so afraid to share those feelings, like, oh, that's too hard, that doesn't work for me, or what, could you go here, and I'd prefer if you did this, because you're afraid to hurt their feelings, or you're afraid that
Yeah, yeah.
they're not gonna listen to you, or they're gonna think that you're being strange for having, certain desires. But it's really necessary, and in this time, it's a great opportunity to tap into, okay, what, and this is what we can slowly move a little bit into, if you're a single person too, because this can affect someone who's on their own, tapping into your own physical body, and feeling the sensations of your body. Where does it feel good? Where do I like to be touched? And if you're alone, you can touch yourself very gently, and just feel it. Go with the feel, slow movement on your body. Oh, well, that feels good to me. Oh, that feels good. And if you're with a partner, to do the same thing, but to voice it to your partner. Oh, I like it when you do this. It would feel really good if you move this way. Or, like you're saying too, ask the questions. How does it feel if I do this? How does it feel if I go this way or do this?
Yes, because when we are actually in the act, we become really habitual, and we are in the sensory mode. I'm just feeling it, and I don't really want to talk. So it's much better to either before or after or separately from the actual lovemaking to be okay. So okay, right now I'm just gonna focus on your cock, or of course, conversely, you're going to focus on my pussy another time, or
Mhm.
my back, or my boobs. And if you're alone, like, this is how this whole thing started for me at Morehouse. The very first exercise they gave us, that you are the visiting dignitary. So that evening you go home, and again you create an environment as if the most important person is coming to visit your home, and that person is you. And you
Lots of
actually,
self care, big self care here.
well, because you cannot actually do this with another person if you haven't done it to yourself.
Yeah,
Because most of us don't actually know what feels good to us. And what we usually do is I look in the mirror, it's like, oh fuck, all of that. We see what's wrong with us, as
yeah,
opposed to what what feels good to us. And so it is actually something that we consciously need to be cultivating, because our culture has not actually told us ever that this is okay. And not only okay, but this is where the beginning of it's like nurturing a sensual being from the very start. And none of us had this education. So in order to do that, you need to give it to yourself. You need to kind of reparent your sexual being
yeah,
in a way, uh, on your own. And that comes from, okay, how do I like to be touched? I had no idea how I
yeah.
wanted to be touched. No fucking clue, even though I was married twice and I had two children. I mean, it's just, and never even, oh, it thought that I should say, like, okay, I like it this way and not that way. I would have been just terrified to say anything like that. It never even occurred to me that this can be a conscious practice.
Yes,
So,
yes. And this
so
is this
yes,
is
so people,
this is perfect for
so
someone who's on their own right
right,
now,
to
to
take the time,
self
a lot
pleasure,
of time
a
in
lot of
front of the
time.
mirror.
Exactly, in front of the mirror, watching, looking at yourself, touching yourself. And I think it was really really important, you can add to the practice here too, is to verbalize it, to
Hmm.
practice
To
talking it
say,
out.
yeah,
Talk to, oh, I
yeah.
really like how this feels, because we are not used to hearing our own voice talking about
Oh my
sex
God.
or talking
Oh,
about pleasure. So I always encourage people that I work with that are singles to practice talking, to practice saying, I really like it when you do it this way. I really like when you lick me here. I really like when you touch my leg like this. I really like to be kissed over here. But to actually say it, so, wow, my voice, I can hear me saying this. And as you practice that as a single now, when you come together with a partner, it'll be so much easier.
so much easier. And that's so important, Liana, that you are focusing on that, because that's one of my biggest obstacle even now. I feel like there is a lump here and I cannot say it.
Right.
So with John, I try to, like, I'm getting more and more comfortable around him, and he's, we just developed, like, he's just saying, okay, but just say that, stay there. Can you just say like the one word as it goes, stay? And even that is so hard for me to do. And
Yeah.
so we don't know where our blocks are, and the voice is actually really, really difficult. Especially, I mean, I had children, I had to be having sex quietly for such a long time, and most of us are not used to it. And then I used to be just really didn't like my sexual voice. I didn't like the I don't like that voice coming out of and hearing myself with that. So I do
That's
it very
that's again,
quietly.
that's judging yourself for what you sound like, thinking that there's something wrong with it, having shame around your own voice, your
Right,
own
a
pleasure.
voice.
Yeah. And
Even though I had partners who were like, make some noise, they really love to feel that affirmation that what they're doing feels good, because that's how you get kind of into it. But it was real, that was one of my biggest blocks, and still hasn't disappeared. So it's not like that, this is going to happen overnight. So just be gentle and kind to yourself. But
yes.
now it's the best time to really do it, because why not? Our lives are,
Well, I want to
right?
offer
Our
I
lives
want
are
to offer
so precarious
I want to offer
right now.
another quick exercise based on the voice, because I think this is such an important aspect, because it's one part of the senses. I mean, all of the senses need work, but this is one part of the senses that you can work on together as a couple. Work on yourself, and the first step being listening to yourself talking about the pleasure that you like, the feeling that you like, or even talking about if you have a partner that's not there, but you're going to see them at some point somewhere, to voice what you may want to say to them. But how about also practicing? Because when we're in the state of having sex, people tend to just be really quiet and not allow themselves to use their voice. And this is where a lot of energy comes out, and where a lot of the energy can build and grow and expand. So with your partner, you can pretend you're having again, playful, pretend you're having an orgasmic meal or something.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
you prepare a meal and just start to go into the meal and just really
mhm,
enjoy it, every bite of it, and then allow yourself to express that verbally, and with lots of sound and noise, and just really, I really love, create the idea of generating this sexual energy even before you go in. We need,
mhm,
like
mhm.
you said earlier, you're not just gonna, like, the problem is going to the bedroom and getting into bed, and it's like, are we gonna have sex? I don't know, I don't really feel like it, neither do I. Well, because you need to generate the energy before, so
Mhm.
you can simulate the orgasm with other things, even with a flower, like you're saying. Oh, this is so nice, really get into the beauty of it through your voice, or a meal, and just, you can do it alone. That's easy. No one's going to be watching you. You can just play around with that. And as a couple, you can
Mhm.
do it. It can be a lot of fun. It can be very playful and fun.
Yes, and I mean, I've noticed with my partner that he's very masculine, and he's been very work driven, etc. And I'm like, wow, just Vancouver is so beautiful, and trees and etc. And it's just look up and listen to the birds, and look where you look at the stream, and look at the new this like since the last walk another different flower came out, or the geese are having the goslings. And so it's like I'm constantly bringing his attention to things that I'm so used to noticing, and he hasn't. And so it's, I think, as a feminine being, and being a sensual being, and having cultivated being this sensual being, especially in the last few years, since I jumped off this roller coaster of busyness and running around, that to allow this sensuality, and then bringing it to him. And then I just we went for a walk the other day, and I haven't seen him in a while, and he was just talking, and I looked over, and I just like so much felt like, oh, I just want to kiss you. So we started kissing, in the middle of this path. And then And then a few minutes later, there was a girl on the bench, and she said, "Oh, you guys are so adorable," and we were like giggling and stuff. And it's like, and it's just really, just yeah, like keeping that sensuality and sexuality alive outside the bedroom as well. And it's not an unconscious thing, but it's like if you feel it bubbling up, it's just like go with it, and then it builds up. So by the time you get to the bedroom, you're like oh, you can't wait to be there. And then even then, it could just drop. But then what do? You can get out the oil and start with a foot massage, or get in the shower. And like the other day, I washed his hair, and I don't think he had his hair washed like ever,
Ever by somebody.
since he was by someone else, and then I just like really took time to, scratch and wash his hair. And it's
That's a
like,
nice
what did
practice. That's a beautiful
yeah,
practice, even to watch each other's hair. Do something that's find something that you've never done before with them and try it out. Wash their hair,
I shaved him in the shower, and yeah, it's
and it's a
like,
very
and
sensual act as well. And that's the whole idea, is to create moments where you're sensually coming together, to get out of the energy of the everyday and find that sensual bubble that you two can sort of fall into for just even a
fall in.
short, it doesn't even have to be that long, just a short period of time. That in itself will bring so much health benefits to you as a couple that you can't even imagine. But you have to be very consciously ready to do that, to spend those moments that you can go in and just, okay, we're together, we're here together, let's just do something crazy and fun and wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and just really, just yeah, there's just so many different things that you can do. And then just, if you don't know what, like, allow yourself maybe just time to kind of write down all the silly stuff that you always wanted to do. And then when you're in the moment, it will just bubble up.
Yeah.
And then just, play with it. It's
And
yeah, and
if you're
it will
writing,
just fill you with so much joy.
yeah, if you're writing them down, you could put it to the side, and when you have that moment that you have together, and if you, everybody's very different and runs their house very different, and maybe you need a structured time that, okay, we're going to spend this half an hour together, and then you can look on that list. What crazy thing did you write down? Well, I wrote down we could do this. What did you write down? And then let's play it out. Let's do it.
Right, right. And
Just
I
let's
wanted to, yeah, I just kind of lost my train of thought for a minute there, but I wanted to, you brought up the eating sensually, the food, and I just came back from a Vipassana meditation from Burma, which was one of the greatest thing that struck with me. And mindfulness practice, this is what we are talking about, is all mindfulness practices. That is
exactly.
actually really what's going to save us in this time. It's really, and these practices have been around for thousands and thousands of years, but
Yes,
we have gotten away from it because of our frantic, frenetic life that has been handed to us, that we have to work 9 to 5, and you have to make this much money, and you have to buy the house in the suburb and the car and everything else, has taken so much of our time, of our day, that we have no, we were left with nothing, just completely physically, emotionally, spiritually bankrupt. And
yeah,
now we have the time to build, come out of this bankruptcy, and reclaim our aliveness and our life, before
absolutely.
all of this happened. And so the mindfulness that the monks were teaching us about, of course, you can have mindfulness about everything, even walking. So when you are doing really, really slow walking, and lift one foot, and then put it down, it would drive most people absolutely out of their mind. However, I can assure you that it will rewire your nervous system. So when it comes to the food, this was really big. We're sitting all of us in a circle table, and it's nice to do it with other people, because then you notice how fast you are compared to others.
Yeah.
And it's really
Well, if
hard
you're
to slow
alone, you're
down.
not going to see that. But I
You're not
think,
going to see that, but
I think that,
but then
I know I've done the mindfulness eating before, and that's how it came also to this idea of orgasmic eating. You become very present in what you're doing, and so now you can smell it, you can taste it, I know the mindfulness training I did was you take a bite, you put your fork down, you don't take another bite till you finish eating what's in your mouth. The fork stays, so you're tasting it, and that's a very sensuous experience because
Oh,
and
I mean, I remember chewing on lettuce and I was like, wow, I never realized lettuce is how tasty it is. You
is.
know, it's like because we just like shove it down our throat, right?
Yeah,
And you kind of get a glimpse of it, and that actually translates to everything in life, right? Like we don't notice how, like you were saying, everything is changing. We are changing, like this moment with you and I together right now, this will never come back. And if we don't slow down uh, and actually savor the moment, it's savoring the moment. I think if people remember this one thing out of this entire interview, is savor your aliveness, and savor it,
every
and
moment is
and in this
precious and
in the savor.
pleasure, and the savoring of it is the pleasure. That's where the
That's right.
pleasure lies, right? And so that's why, yes, pleasure is a possibility because, as you just said, savoring it creates the pleasure. And what else is there?
Honestly, who knows? But what there is, there has been books and movies and everything written about the universe, the
Yeah.
complex mystery of what it means to be alive on this planet. So we're not gonna be able to address that. But if you are,
Not today. We'll do that another time.
yeah,
But
we
yeah,
can do it another time. However, right now I know a lot of people are struggling with being
yes,
alone, and or with their partners, or a lot of abuse, etc. So just drop into to yeah, just savor the moment, and drop into your heart and create spaces for yourself, and you can do that, and get out in nature as much as possible, wherever that is possible, because all our answers are in nature. We are so much part of it. And I know you are on that same. And then when you're out in nature, listen to the waves, uh, listen to the wind, look up at the sky, look at the leaves. Everything is changing every single moment of the
exactly.
day,
And
all the time.
this is
And
your opportunity to be part of everything that is around you. And if you are with somebody, then and we are stuck in this in a certain way with this person, and we have to work through all of these things that maybe we haven't had the opportunity to go in gently, go in with an open heart, go in allowing being present with that person and
because each person is a universe, and they really are incredibly interesting, and uh, in so many ways, but in order to find who they really are, you need to ask questions, and you need to actually drop in. And now we
yeah.
have the most precious commodity is time, and we have it. And drop in, and look into each other's eyes, and smell each other, and touch each other, and massage each other, and find out where the points are, where the wounds are, where the scars are,
Mhm.
where the tightness is in the body.
It's the moment for healing, right? It's the moment for
Mhm.
healing.
Absolutely. And I'm feeling that I'm healing
Me
layer
too.
by layer so much. And so I'm really, really grateful actually for this virus to be doing its magical thing to us all over the world. It's an exciting, exciting time to be alive.
Absolutely, absolutely. We don't know where it's going, but at the same meanwhile, we have to continue. We have to continue, and we can make our choices. We can make the choices as we continue in a conscious manner, right? And
That's right.
that's why I mean I think that um, opening our hearts is really important.
It's a
Feeling
very big part.
happy,
It's a very,
feeling good whenever we can.
it,
No, even if it's really, I know it's really tough, and it's tough for everybody, and everybody's in different layers of trauma, but you will stay better, and we will be a happier, healthy world if we can keep that energy lifted, in any way, as we've mentioned many different possibilities of doing that. And I think we should wrap up. We've gone for like an hour. I still don't even
Yes,
know if we're on Facebook because
I know. That's okay.
I haven't seen.
That's
I can't see the connection to Facebook on this format. But if not, I can upload this, or we can. I don't know. I'll figure it out when we get there. But if anybody has been here, because I can't see if anyone is on, although it says that people are. Thank you for joining us in this fun, lively discussion, and I hope that we've helped you in some way, given you some ideas to move forward and creating more pleasure in your life. If you would like to contact either of us, that's absolutely possible. We'll have our contact information below with web page information. Julia can provide that, and I will post it here. And do you have any last thoughts, Julia?
I just wanted to say that while this quarantine is happening, just to join others, I'd like to offer people access for the time being. It's a free access to my videos, which is a penis yoni massage video that they can access on my website, www.SoulSexy.Life,
Very
just for
nice.
the time that you are in quarantine, and maybe you can learn something new for this time. And I'd like to offer that as an opening of my heart to all the people who are willing to go down on this brave path of discovering this mystery of our sensual sexual being. And so, with that, yeah, thank you so much,
Great.
Liana,
Thank you.
for this
That's beautiful.
conversation, and wishing you all the best in Rio. And love to hear more about how that's going in that country. And maybe that's another conversation. Super curious how you are dealing with all of this down there.
Yeah, well, I'll be
But I
talking
think
more. We can get together and chat some more.
sounds good. Sounds good. Take care, love.
Okay.
Nice
Okay,
talking
Julia.
to you.
Nice to chat
Thank
with
you.
you. I'll talk to you
Thank you.
soon. Much love
Bye.
making.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.